It's that franchise everybody can't stand, but they keep making anyway. I should be more specific.
Dumbledore asked if I give you something, Jacob.
Are you kidding me right now?
Eddie Redmayne is back to fight not Johnny Depp in Fantastic Beasts 3, The Secret of Dick. I don't care, aren't we done with these yet? Alright, before I talk about what I think of this movie, I should probably talk about what I think of the other Harry Potter Wizarding Worlds movies. Harry Potter movies. They're good. Yeah, I don't think they're great because I didn't grow up with it and I didn't read the books. I hear if you grew up with it or read the books, you think they're great, but if you're just an average moviegoer, you think they're good. And I think they're good. I don't fall in love with them. I'm a Lord of the Rings guy, but I think they're well-made movies. I can't really complain about them. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I actually thought this was passable. It was okay. I didn't really get into Eddie Redmayne as the main character. I thought he would have been a better side character, but I actually really liked the Baker and Queenie and their little side story going on. I thought that was a lot more interesting than anything with Goldbladder. Again, I really don't care about these names, but I also thought the beasts themselves were interesting enough, so I gave it a bit of a pass. Fantastic Beasts 2 can suck my dick. It's terrible. Even the two characters I like in the first one are really done dirty. Like, you know that scene in 101 Dalmatians where, like, they're rolling in the dirt? Just imagine that's like, I don't know, Dobby shit, and that's like a fraction of how dirty they were done. It was long, it was boring, it was complicated, and I couldn't follow much of it, but it's okay, because every Harry Potter fan tells me if you could follow it, it's even more insulting, so I think that's a good thing. Now we have this one, Fantastic Beasts, The Secret of Dumbledore, and the secret is, man, authors shouldn't write movies. I know there's some that can pull it off, but they usually write like authors in that they focus on the written word. There's a lot of going to places and talking, standing around and talking, sitting around and talking, long, complicated plots that work great in a book, but not really in a visual medium.
They say if you listen carefully enough, the past whispers to you.
It says, rewrite. There's just so much spoken exposition in this story that doesn't feel like it amounts to much. If you're a fan of not having Fantastic Beasts in your Fantastic Beasts movie, then this is it. This is the one to see, because there are barely any in it. And what's so strange about it is that one of the big problems with the previous film is that they're trying to find a way to sort of shoehorn their main character in, because that's always been kind of a weird problem with these movies. They have Eddie Redmayne, this kind of awkward kid in the back of the class character that'd be a great side character, but for some reason they insist on him being the lead, when again, Jacob and Queenie would have been fine if they didn't do him Dobby shit dirty in the last one. So in the first one, they work him in okay. In the second one, there is no reason for him to be in this story at all, but they work him in. What's so frustrating about this one is there is a reason they could have worked him in, an essential reason to have him in this story, and they don't do it. It starts out with this little, like, Dragon Bambi being born. The bad guys want this Dragon Bambi because this thing apparently decides elections. Why? Because J.K. Rowling is crazy. So there he is, there's Eddie Redmayne as Newt watching this thing give birth, and the bad guys are there and they take it. This thing that can decide elections is not being looked after by a bunch of security or a bunch of people. It's just Newt. There's a scene where they try to, like, manipulate this thing by slitting its throat. Great kids movie. And they try to make it so that it's gonna choose the wrong person, but there's another one. She gives birth to twins, and Eddie Redmayne has this other Dragon Bambi, and you would think, well, you would go to the proper authorities, or again, he'd be in contact with the proper authorities because this thing can decide elections. So I guess these things are super rare. All you have to do is say, hey, Newt, you are officially in charge of Bambi dragons, and you're gonna make sure nothing happens to them. But they don't. Like, he doesn't have connections to anybody about this going on. So that's the first major problem. The second major problem, like I said, there's no Fantastic Beasts in this Fantastic Beasts movie. Every once in a while, they might make like a cameo, but that's it. There's almost no talking about them at all. Even the title, when it opens up, it's like The Secrets of Dumbledore. It's really big and Fantastic Beasts at the top. Like, remember when that was like the big thing? Like, wow, we're excited to see Fantastic Beasts. And I guess they really weren't that fantastic because the title just gets smaller and smaller in each one. Third, you know how in the last movie there's a lot of focus on like these complicated backstories and schemes that just seem to go on, and even when you like really delve into it. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. Well, J.K. Rowling is doing what she does best, giving you the exact opposite of what you want. This is nothing but that. It is all about politics. Like I said, the climax of this is an election. That's how thrilling this gets. I'm really not kidding when I say like 80% of this movie is just people going into rooms and talking about what the future is going to be and the future of magic and muggles, which it's a prequel, so you already know what it's going to be. But even if you take that out of it, I saw like kids in the audience for this screening, and some of them were even dressed up like Harry Potter, and they were asleep, man. There was a lot of them just struggling to stay awake. I was struggling to stay awake because this just isn't that interesting.
Our war with the Muggles begins today!
If by war you mean that Simpsons episode where they do a parody of Phantom Menace where a giant machine comes in, sits down, reads the paper while everyone talks politically, then yes, that kind of war begins now. This leads to the fourth reason I think this movie just so doesn't work, and fascinatingly doesn't work. The relationships in this movie that you're supposed to care about are kept at a distance. You got Jacob and Queenie. Now this is their chance to like redeem them, like actually make them interesting again. Throughout the whole film, they're kept at a distance. They're like on different sides. You got Dumbledore, and I guess I shouldn't say, but someone that he's in love with, and they are kept at a distance. And this is like one of the major focuses of the movie. Even Eddie Redmayne and the Jacob character, the baker, they're kept at a distance. And like that was the big thing. It was like their friendship. I actually totally forgot Newt had a kind of girlfriend in these other movies. And let me tell you, this movie doesn't help you remember, because I'm not kidding. She has roughly a minute of screen time in this movie. So even that is kept at a distance. That's all your main characters and all the important, essential relationships kept at a distance. They rarely see each other. They rarely talk to each other. They just go into separate rooms away from one another and talk about why what you're watching is so important. And you know what? It doesn't feel important because we have no connection to these people. We have no reason to like them.
What you're doing is madness.
Every current J.K. Rowling fan. I feel like this movie series shouldn't be a series. It was fine as a standalone film. It ended on a good note. Again, I had some issues with it. I really think Jacob and Queenie should have been the main leads, but it's fine. It ends on them. I mean, again, that's all the more reason they should be the focus, but whatever, they end on them. But Warner Brothers said, money. And here we are. We got this third one that I don't know anyone that's excited for this. It's funny because everybody says J.K. Rowling is the next J.R.R. Tolkien, and to some level they're right. She had these really successful fantasy movies, and now she's got her Hobbit series. The first one people kind of like, the second one people can't stand, and the third one people are gonna forget even came out. The only thing I can say kind of held my attention in this was the acting. And the acting isn't phenomenal, but it's decent. I was especially intrigued by Jude Law in this movie. He's sort of doing this in-between performance of Michael Gambit and Richard Harris, which those are two very different Dumbledores, but somehow he finds this in-between where I can see him as the younger version of either of them, and that's really impressive. Oh, I should probably talk about Johnny Depp not being in this movie too. I'm not gonna lie, I think that was a good choice. Even taking out everything that's going on with him right now, I was imagining Depp with the stupid hair and the contacts in this movie, in some of these scenes, and I would just be laughing my ass off if he was. At the very least, with this dude, I could take it seriously. It's still not engaging, it's still boring as hell, but I was not laughing at it. Honestly, the more I think about it, I wish Depp was in this movie, because at the very least, I'd be laughing at something.
We'll be perfectly safe.
Ezra Miller being choked? Well, this is a switch. I really didn't get much creativity out of this world. If I never knew anything about Harry Potter and I was introduced to this world through this movie, I would not want to know anything more about it. I would in Fantastic Beasts. I actually thought that world was kind of interesting, especially like the American side of this magical world. And again, if I knew nothing about Harry Potter, I would still find it interesting. I wouldn't here. I would find this place very boring, very dull, not very pretty to look at. With Harry Potter, I at least get why it started out bright and colorful and it got gray and dark. He's growing up and he's going through tougher times and the story gets darker, so I understand that. They just did a little too early. They did in movie 3 and there was something like 5 other movies left. And okay, you get sick of looking at that style, but I still understood it. There is no reason for everything to look this gray, this flat, and this boring. So in terms of who will like it, I'm assuming fans of the last film. If you really got into the last film and you like these complicated stories and you like it going really dark and kind of feeling adult and a lot of conversations that makes the world feel a little bit more real. It's there, though I guess, again, every Harry Potter fan tells me if you like do any digging on it, like none of it makes sense at all. For me, and I feel like a lot of Harry Potter fans and even Fantastic Beasts fans, we need a little bit more of the motivation and intrigue, imagination and color, and Fantastic Beasts. It would be nice to have a Fantastic Beasts movie with actual Fantastic Beasts in it. So let's give this 1.5 out of 4 Dragon Bambies going to Electoral College. With all that said, what did you think? Did you think I was totally wrong about this? Did you think this was a good conclusion to Fantastic Beasts? Do you think that it does get more adult and dark and gritty and that's something where the series really needed to go? Or do you think it didn't really follow through and it's just getting too complicated and lost in its own bullshit? Or do you think it's somewhere in between? Do you think these movies are fine and it's nice to see Harry Potter world again and wizards and wands and stuff like that? I'd love to know what you think. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you next time. Take care.